So my first film in first year film school was the 6-minute comedy The Upsell, which was an incredibly awesome film to do because it was based loosely on a true story, a date that I went on at the time actually, a date that went wrong. And my mother, who's a creative artist, creative arts therapist in fact, said to me, anything you shoot based on personal experience is usually a better product. So I thought, okay, well, let's try this horrific date that I used to tell people as a story, you know, at parties, as a party story. And it did end up being quite an awesome experience. But I noticed in film school, a lot of the guys were sort of, you know, one camera and out in the backyard sort of thing. But I thought, no, I really want to test myself, you know, and I'd had these experiences on big sets already. So I thought, all right, well, what I'll do is I set myself the challenge of green screen. So we had a taxi scene where I went into a studio and painted my own infinity wall with the help of a couple of others, and we had our own sort of first studio shoot, which turned out pretty good. I was happy with that. And also on the Upsell, I had the opportunity to direct more people in one room than I ever had before. In fact, on the first day I was directing up to, I think, 75 people in one day. So that was an amazing experience, and people were fighting to get onto the set. The movie then actually was accepted into Tropfest, but back then you had to have 35mm negative stills in your press kit, and unfortunately the stills photographer I had on that shoot didn't do a job properly, and none of the photos were usable. They were either underexposed or overexposed. So now living in a digital world, that wouldn't be a problem, and you just send your digital stills. But based on that, I was then rejected from Tropfest, even though I was firstly accepted. So I was rejected on my stills, which now wouldn't be an issue. So, but it did give me hope that I was doing things and moving in the right direction. And so that was a good film for a first year student, I think.
I'm ready.
What?
Let's go. They'll be waiting.
Avon, it's back.
Also in first year film school, you know, you have a chance to work on your friends' films as well, and I got into a relationship with one of the girls there, Felicity King, and her short film was a drama set in the country. I ended up acting in that and helping her co-produce it. And we brought Nick Levy back to be the assistant director, and the DOP from Radio Samurai, Carl Seaman. We had him shoot the film. So it was trying to raise the bar slightly as far as sort of film school stuff goes. And then we had a panel from Film Victoria come in and judge all of those first year films, and she actually won for her movie that her and I acted in. Felicity went on to become the Goss model, which was a national campaign, and she had herself up on billboards and stuff like that. So that was quite exciting, and a very interesting creative relationship that I had at the time. So yeah, that was home. 2002, second year film school, I set the challenge of doubling the running time and doubling the amount of cast. So in the Upsell I had 2 leads, 6 minutes. Now I was going to go 4 leads and 12 minutes. What could I do? How could I experiment? So I thought, okay, this time I'm going to do aerial footage. So I got in touch with a friend of mine who was ex-army, who had his helicopter license, and we decided to do some aerial shots for my opening title sequence. So you can imagine that in film school that was a bit lavish, and had my rest of my peers kind of going, oh god, hell, okay, how do we top this, you know? And I've always been a bit of a fan of you know, healthy competition, so that was exciting. That was an extremely big year for me as an artist in general, particularly in Melbourne. You know, sometimes it's hard to find work in general in Melbourne in the film industry. In 2002, I worked on a massive 26 productions. So it was literally a different film, every 2 weeks, and there was a lot of acting involved. So I can remember, dyeing my hair and learning my lines for a character the following week, and this was just going on, week after week all year. It was probably the craziest year of my life. So you had 26 productions, and some of them paid, some unpaid. A bit of both, really, and branched out outside of film school, and even did some corporate video and things like that too, and some TVCs. So an incredibly big year. 2003, third year film school, and again I wanted to up the ante. So I looked at a half an hour film with 16 actors, and all in fairly main roles. And I used the opportunity now to do prosthetics makeup, and for many years I'd been adapting the short novella Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, and I thought this is the chance to do this film. Now having a bit of experience behind me, and knowing good actors and artists that could help bring this movie together, and I thought what a great graduate piece, to be at film school third year and do this half an hour short film. My title, instead of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I changed it to The Strange Game of Hide and Seek. So we embarked on this film, which was a 1-week shoot. It was received very well in this country straight away, having screened at places like Indie Air in Perth. It then went on to screen at Shadow Star in the UK, and I thought, okay, wow, I've got something here. Then I started sending the movie out to film festivals all around America, and it did start to get into some small ones. I remember there's one in Ohio called The Broken Lamp, and then it got picked up again by Shock A Go Go in Los Angeles. And then the big one, which was Shriekfest, I thought, wow, Shriekfest is like the biggest horror film festival in Los Angeles. I'm going to have to fly over for that. This finally gives me a good reason to go to America with a movie that I'm most proud of, and see what sort of business I can drum up when I get there. 2004, hit Los Angeles for the first time, and I meet with Heidi Martinuzzi from Film Threat, who was my guide. She took me to a lot of the horror film festival screenings that were going on prior to Shriekfest and during Shriekfest. And on my first night I was lucky enough to meet Gunnar Hansen, who plays Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which had been one of my favourite horror films as a child. So here I was with Gunnar, Leatherface, on my first night in Los Angeles. It was very exciting. Shriekfest proved to be an awesome experience, and I made a lot of friends that I stayed in touch with ever since then. I received best wishes for my 30th birthday at the time from Tobe Hooper, the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. In the following year, I entered the Shriekfest screenwriting competition with the full-length version of The Strange Game of Hide and Seek, which is titled Utterson, which is the full-length version of the movie, so the full-length screenplay, and ended up winning that award, which was also an amazing thing for me to be recognised as a writer. Because as I say, I'm a prolific writer, and I'm always constantly writing screenplays. I have a movie in just about every genre, sitting in my drawer or on my external drive. So it was great to be accepted and recognised for my writing as well, not just directing and filmmaking and acting. Coming home, the movie was then also recognised by a production company named Alliance Motion Pictures. And Alliance were putting out some interesting documentaries on UFOs and aliens at the time, and were doing very well in Australia. Some very, very left field subjects, peak oil, illuminated manuscripts, quite an independent label that was prepared to take risks. So they took a risk on me, and they loved the short film so much they said, we're going to release this. It's going to be distributed through Shock Entertainment, and it's going to be the first short film ever released on DVD in Australia, which it was. And it was a limited edition. I think they pressed 500 copies or something like that. They all sold within the first couple of weeks, and I believe now, if you're lucky, you can probably find one on eBay.